Broadcasting on Radio Star Worldwide. It's the Maverick Difference Radio Show with Paul Finck. When you want to step up and dare to be different. When you'll dare to be great and live to your fullest potential. When you are ready to dare to be a maverick and live the life of your dreams. Then it's time to listen to Paul Finck.
Good morning. Welcome to the Maverick Difference Radio Show. This is your host, Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire. And we are here talking about what it would take. Why would you ever take a risk? What's that all about? What are we talking about? And taking a risk to accomplish what in your life? All that and more is coming right up. We are in the company of my just wonderful, inspiring producer. This is Wendy. Say, hey, Wendy.
Hey, Wendy.
Nice.
How are you doing this morning?
I am doing awesome. Just got back from my event in Las Vegas. We had a room full of people that got changed, inspired, and move forward with their life and their career, their profession, their abundance in life to create the life of their dreams. And that was the whole point of the 3 days, and just had a blast doing it, hanging out with all of them. So that was awesome.
Nice.
How has your week been?
Oh, gosh, it's been so rainy. I'm from Arizona, so I'm not used to this. I literally left to get here early today because it was just pouring all night long and all morning.
Isn't that supposed to be the desert? That's what I'm told. Isn't that right?
Right? It's kind of freaking me out a little bit. I'm not used to it being so wet.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was even chilly in Vegas. So our weather patterns are getting all messed up this week. However, we are still awesome and great, and we keep moving forward regardless. And so we're going to be talking about risk. And any idea what we're talking about here, Wendy?
What risk you should and should not take, maybe.
Something like that. Have you ever taken a big risk in your life?
Yes. Yes. I left. Okay. So I was a diamond grader and jewelry designer for 14 years. And I left what I had my degree in to do what I'm doing now, to be in the entertainment industry. And that was a huge, huge risk and a huge step. But you know what? My heart wasn't into being a diamond grader anymore. You gotta follow where your heart leads you.
How long ago was that?
That was 5 years ago.
Are you really happy you took the risk?
Yes. I'm fulfilled now.
What? And here's part of the conversation, and we're going to delve into this in more components in just a moment. Only let's just go to the baseline is, when I said, did you ever take a risk? You said, well, here's an example. Mm-hmm. Why was that a risk?
Because when I had my career, I was very solid, very established. I made a good living. I was very good at what I did. And I left everything I knew to pursue a dream.
Well, no, you knew who you were. You knew that it was a dream, so you didn't leave everything.
That's true.
You had your personality, you had your knowledge base, and you were able to use that for everything you now have.
Yeah.
So you didn't lose. And this is where so many people go. And Wendy, thank you for sharing and hanging out with us here. So often it is that drama where we go, oh, I left everything. Well, we know we didn't leave everything. It's who we are inside carries with us no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so then we say, well, what did we really risk? And part of what you identified, which is so true and where so many people calculate, I spent time and energy going in one direction, and then I felt like that time and energy was wasted because I went in a different direction. Mm-hmm. Well, was it? And does it matter when you take, could you have gotten that time and energy back no matter what you did? It was spent. So it's not like, oh, well, you could get it back anyway. And so we make decisions based on things because of the amount of time that we spent in it And would you continue to get a return on investment by staying with it, even though you wanted something else? No, because in your calculation, your return was fulfillment, joy, happiness. And you realize you couldn't get that where you were.
Very true.
Which means what? Which means you really didn't risk anything.
Now, which means I made the right decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so often we talk about this thing. Oh, I risked all this. We didn't risk anything. You actually went forward and grabbed hold of instead of losing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're one of the ones that actually made the difference, actually went for it. Where this discussion really is important is for the people that didn't, that don't, because they feel like they're risking something so great that they couldn't possibly move. They couldn't possibly take that extra action. And that's where the challenge is that we think we're risking, because I spend time and energy. You guys, it's kind of like, well, have you ever had a bad relationship? Most of us have been through one or two in our life.
Oh, yeah.
We have a bad relationship. We're in it and we don't leave it. Why? Because that would be a risk. And part of the calculation of our risk is that we spent energy in the past. And well, that time and energy would be a waste of time, or we would have to consider that a bad return on investment if we left now. When we know it's not going to get any better in the future. However, we won't leave it because we already invested in that relationship. And so we won't leave it to go for another one, even though we know it's the best thing for us. Mm-hmm. And it's an amazing calculation. And it's all around this conversation of, well, what does risk really mean? What does risk look like? And what's that have to do with how we make our decisions going forward? I had a similar, over the years, I had really similar process of deciding, oh, well, I've got to change careers. I've got to keep moving. I've got to do something different. And my first time I was actually we got people coming in and out. That they are so fascinated with what we're talking about, they can't help but come and join you. No, never mind. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called spin. No matter what happens in your world, you can always create it as a possible spin. Tell them, come on in, join the conversation. You can join us. Come on. No. So we've got to get who their name was. Just put them up on the board here. Hey, and start tagging them. Hey, join the conversation. So they're loving this, aren't they? So where was I? We absolutely, when I was young, I had just graduated from college. I had gotten a job, an actual job, which is so rare for me. Matter of fact, it's the only job I ever had in my whole career. Over 30 years now, this was the only time where I had a straight salary. I had a straight salary with a little bit of bonus, a little bit of commissionable bonus based on my production. I had gotten that right out of college, and I learned the craft. I learned what the job was, and I moved into a new apartment, and I spent my time painting the apartment. When I got done painting the apartment, I was bored silly because I could do the job in my sleep and was really unmotivated because it was a salary instead of straight commission. And I left after 7 weeks and went to the competition, which was straight commission. Now, can you imagine after 4 years of a very expensive college, and now I went to a straight commission position where I did not need a college degree at all, how excited my parents must have been about this great change that I made. And for me, it was an obvious. I didn't even consider it a risk. I just thought, well, this makes sense. They're not motivating me. They're not paying me. And with this new job, I know I could make up the difference in just creating the commissions because I had confidence in what I was doing. And so for me, it wasn't a risk. It was an obvious, just go to the straight commission position, be a true entrepreneur. You'll make so much more money. And I had already gotten that mindset that was possible and went for it. And so 7 weeks into my absolute professional career, I shifted and became an entrepreneur. And I've never looked back. It's been 30 now, almost 31 years now that I've been an entrepreneur, taking what most people would consider risks every step of the way and creating abundance and a lifestyle around it. And it's what I teach at the Maverick Selling Business Builder Bootcamp. It's what I teach in all my trainings. Anytime you're around me, as Wendy, you know, I talk about taking that risk and stepping out and really creating that. So we understand what risk could be. What do you think? What's the definition? Where do we decide risk is? What would you say the definition of risk is?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, that is a very good question. My take would be is risk is going against your norm. Is the best way I think of it, or taking a more educated guess on a new route.
And which is really good. And so basically what you're saying is stretching beyond your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Put in personality development terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stretching. So it's a place you've never been. It's stretching beyond your comfort zones, beyond where you're comfortable with, is what you're considering risk is.
Mm-hmm.
So when we stretch your comfort zone, when we make more things in your world comfortable, you're able to take more risk. Or basically your risk changes so that what was risky isn't risky anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you can now, does risk mean that you're automatically, when you take risk, does it mean you have more to lose?
Well, not necessarily, because you have the same amount of stuff to win or lose, regardless if you take the risk or not.
You know? Right. So then, and that's where that whole concept of that comfort zone comes from, because as soon as you step on the other side of the comfort zone, people define that as risky. Mm-hmm. But really, it's the same equation. Most people believe, oh, when I take an investment, when I grab a hold of an opportunity, it's going to be huge risk. The challenge is that you're risking, is there real stability, for instance? And that's the other side of the coin is when I stay where I am, that's not risky. That would be by definition. If stepping outside your comfort zone is risky, staying within your comfort zone is not risky.
It's boring.
Well, not only is it, you and I are definitely on the same page here. Absolutely. Like I said, I left my job after 7 weeks. One of the major factors was I was sleeping. Like literally they paid me to move and paint my apartment. I did nothing else. It was so brain dead for me. And so I was bored silly. So I had to create something different. However, when we're talking about most people, and they look at, quitting their job and creating a new business. They look at switching careers. They look at making an investment, maybe a real estate deal that they have to plunk some money down into, maybe an opportunity that they have to invest in. They look at all these things as taking a risk. However, that means that not doing those is not risky. However, is that true? For instance, if we do not invest in our money and leverage our money to earn more income, is that more risky than not making an investment at all? We don't make an investment at all, and we leave our money, for instance, in a normal mutual fund, and we left it in a mutual fund or a pension fund over the last 20, 30 years, chances are you would now have less money than when you started, or your amount of growth would be really, really small. That may not sustain you, and the stats are wouldn't sustain you for your retirement years. Well, isn't that a risky place to be? Most people who graduate, who become retired in this day and age are working in Best Buy or in the Gap to make ends meet. Well, that's pretty risky to work 30, 40 years in a career only to be needing to work at Best Buy to make sure that you can put food on the table. Mm-hmm. That's a risky position. Less risky is let's invest the money that you have along the way and work on it for 30, 40 years in a different capacity so you have the abundance at the end of the road. These are the components that people say, oh, where's the stability? Is a job stable these days? Having a job, is that stability?
Not necessarily.
However, most people consider it is. However, then they get laid off and they scratch their head going, oh my gosh, what happened? Mm-hmm. No, that was their stability. That was where they thought security was. However, at any given moment, your whole future is dependent on other people. Everything you have in your life is dependent on other people when you have a job, isn't it?
It is.
They decide that they're going to make an investment with the company as to the direction the company's going, and that decision was faulty. And the company collapses. Everybody in the company loses their job. And then what do? Except you'd rather have, and most people call stability, letting other people make decisions that affect the rest of their life rather than them making decisions that affect the rest of their life. That's the true definition of what most people call stability. Because anytime that you have a job, it's other people who are running the game. Other people that are deciding whether you have food on your table next month or not. Other people deciding whether your mortgage can be paid next month or not. Because at any given moment, and I've coached the people that all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, 200 people got laid off in their company and they were one of them. And they're super stoked. That was the stable situation for them up to that very moment. That's what they defined as stability. And so one of the challenges is that most people have this mythical world that they've created, that what they are in and what they're doing is stable, and anything other than that, like we said, outside of that boundary, outside of that comfort zone, is where the risk is. When nothing could be further from the truth. When you take control, when you make the decision, when you decide, that's where the real risk is mitigated. That's where you really are able to step into your power and take back that challenge of what's risky and what's not, because now you have full control and you actually have less risk than ever before. How does that sit with you, Wendy?
I think that sits very well with me, actually.
and it's an amazing process. And as I coach people all around the world, it's what is coming up more and more is that they're realizing that, oh my gosh, what they used to think was risky isn't risky anymore. And they begin to make this equation that staying where I am is risky. Taking that action that I used to think was risky is really the way for me to find stability, for me to find peace, happiness, joy, abundance in my life. It's not by not doing, it's by doing. And that's such a great leap, such a great understanding to create our life, create where we really want to go. We're going to talk about why risk and why take risks is also the big deal. And we talked about it. So why do you take risk? We take risk because
we want to grow.
We want to grow. We want to change. We're bored with what we're doing. We realize that everything we want is in a place we've never been, and it's outside of our comfort zone. We want to stretch our limits, our boundaries. Risk begins where your comfort zone ends, increasing our potential for opportunity and the understanding that we take risk to create ourselves to be our fullest potential, to reach our fullest potential every day. So awesome. We're going to be talking more about this, and time is clicking away. I'm going to take a quick break now so that we can talk more on the other side of this break about, well, what exactly are we going to risk? And I'm going to go through a litany of components as to in what way you can challenge your comfort zones, what way you can really step beyond the limits that you're now living in, and what does taking a risk really look like. We're going to come back. Wendy, I'm going to put you on silent mode as far as being on the screen when we come back, so that you can do your job, I can do mine, and I'll focus in on this list of exactly what we're doing in taking risk. This is Paul Finck. This is the Maverick Millionaire, and this is the Maverick Difference Radio Show. See you right after this.
This is the Maverick Difference Radio Show with Paul Finck. We'll be back right after this. At Lavish Lifestyle Vacations, the experience of a lifetime awaits. When everything is included, all your troubles disappear. Imagine a perfect family holiday without the usual stress, or a romantic getaway where luxury and indulgence surrounds you. Eat, drink, dance, swim. Escape, relax, explore, reconnect, and rejuvenate. The perfect all-inclusive holiday is just a few clicks away. Book your amazing affordable deal at lavishlifestylevacations.com for as low as $99 per person per day. You're listening to Paul Finck and the Maverick Difference Radio Show. Now, here's Paul.
Welcome back. This is Paul Finck. This is the Maverick Difference Radio Show. I am the Maverick Millionaire. That is how I operate every single day, is to really do things different than the average folk. And we're talking about risk, and why would you take risk, and what does risk actually look like? I took risk over the years to create abundance, to create something new in my life, and for me, for excitement and adventure in taking that risk as well. What I've learned over the years is that every time you take that exciting adventure, that shift, that change, you develop yourself outside of the comfort zone, outside of your comfort zone, that you really are stretching yourself, not just in that component, across the board, and it's creating whole new existence for you in your world. A couple things, and I want to talk about, well, what does taking risk really look like? And we talked about like doing a job shift. And so I already developed and already devoted time, energy, money into a certain career or a certain pathway. And now I shift it, I move it, and I turn to a different path. I turn to a different career maybe. And then I'm needing to find new skill sets, do different study, different time and energy to focus on this new career path. And we talk about that being risk, where we're risking jumping into something new versus what we already had comfort in. Every step of the way, that's growing and developing you into new worlds, new information, new synapses in your brain, and which creates new opportunities for you in your life. I remember I got into sales. My first career was in medical sales. And I remember being in the sales process, and I was learning new techniques, new strategies. And so one of the ways in which I experienced taking a risk, especially early on, was testing out these new techniques, these new strategies, actually stepping into the power of testing them in a live environment. Now, when you're testing out new strategies of communication, of sales, of any sort of process, the risk is that you have done it a different way in the past. So you've done it a certain way every single time. You've gotten a certain amount of results that have sustained you at the very least, or you would have changed already. So you have a certain amount of sustaining ability with what you already have, what you've already been doing. Now you're going to shift, do something different, and you're doing it to it, and your expectations are you're going to create a different result. But you don't know that for sure. You don't know that you're actually going to get a different result, and that's where the risk comes in. Because people will have a hard time doing that new thing because they have a certain amount of sustenance right now with what they're doing. Imagine you test out something new and your actual results go down instead of up. When your results go down instead of up, most people fear that loss, so they don't take the risk at all. So they'd rather have, and here's the equation that most people end up in, they'd rather have mediocrity or sustenance rather than risking that to get abundance. And so they stay in that mediocrity, they stay in that sustenance, they stay in that just getting by, because that's better than having less than. However, unless you change, you never have the opportunity to get more than. I dared to risk. I dared to make that change in my life. And so here I was a new salesperson. I was in my 20s, and I started studying different components of sales, influence, persuasion, different techniques on how to move people. With all this concepts, you can either apply it or not apply it. You can either decide to bring it into reality or simply keep it in theory in your head. So I'm reading this stuff. And I remember I was actually got the audio tapes from this one salesperson. Actually, it was, in this case, it was Tom Hopkins. Tom Hopkins, for anyone who knows, is really key on sales, scripting, sales processes. And so I was listening to an audio tape by Tom Hopkins and listening to some techniques and strategies. And one of the things that he did, and again, these are some basic concepts, and I was listening to it, and the basic concept was ask the question, ask the buying questions, and ask the question, and then, and this was really key. So I had just finished listening to this technique. They said, ask the question, ask for the order, for instance, and then shut up, just quiet, don't say a word. It doesn't matter how long it takes for the other person to respond. You don't say a word. So you ask for the order and then you shut up and you don't say a word. Now, I got to tell you, if you've ever had a moment in a conversation where you're waiting for a response and the other person doesn't say anything for 3 seconds, it feels like an eternity. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Imagine, I would love for you to time yourself. I don't want to do it here because I'm quiet for 10, 20, 30 seconds. You will turn the channel. You'll shut this off. You'll think I'm done. It's that long a period of time. Especially when we're in our brain, especially standing in front of somebody, staring at them, just sitting there staring. 10 seconds, 20, 30 is an eternity. So now, Imagine you ask for the order and then and this is the training I just heard, shut up. And you wait for the other person to respond and you don't say anything during this long, uncomfortable silence. And all you're doing is smiling, looking at them. Without any sort of reaction from you whatsoever, waiting for them to react. I just heard this training. I walked into a new client, brand new client, went through my process and asked for the order. Just did it. And I'll never forget the eternity that followed as I stood there waiting for the person to respond. They were the purchaser in a medical clinic, and I had asked for the order, asked for them to give me what they were interested in ordering right then that day, and then I shut up. And it felt like an eternity. What happened next was amazing to me. She actually responded. She got up out of her seat as we were sitting there actually and talking. I asked for the order. She got up out of her seat and said, "Let me go check." She went in the back, did whatever she was doing. A couple moments later, came to me with a long laundry list of things that they needed, and she placed an order with me on the spot. I'll never forget that day. I went to my car, rolled up all the windows, make sure no one was able to hear me, and I just screamed all in excitement, "Hey, it works!" For me, at the moment, that was a huge risk, because what I was risking was that my other techniques, my other possibilities weren't going to work. This was going to work better than those. And I had to take the leap of faith and simply test it out, see what would happen. It worked, which showed me that it could, and I continue to do that to this day. That one lesson has made me millions of dollars. Imagine if I wasn't willing to risk that call, risk that appointment, risk not getting an order to see if this worked. What would my results be today? Millions of dollars shifted instead of in my hands, instead of in my company's hands, instead of in the process of moving people to where I know they want to be, they would have gone elsewhere. What a difference it made that I was willing to take that risk. What are you willing to risk? In that moment, I was willing to risk I wasn't going to get the client or the sale. I was willing to risk I was going to make a fool of myself. I was willing to risk I was going to be embarrassed by that long, uncomfortable silence. All those things I was willing to risk. Is that a huge risk? Some people say yes. Those people that jump, those people that take the leap of faith. No, it's minor, it's small. It's nothing compared to the risk of not doing it. I want you to get that motivation, get that understanding. The risk of not doing is multiplied, is compounded over your years, decades of your life that you still have remaining. Risk doing it different. Risk stepping out beyond your comfort zone. Risk, in this case, I also risk hearing the word no. So often people won't ask a question, won't ask for an order, won't have that uncomfortable silence, won't step out of their comfort zone to ask people, what do you think? Are you interested in doing business with me? They won't ask that obvious question because they're concerned about hearing no. And so they won't ask the question that people could say no to. And so often that question is, will you buy from me? Will you do business with me? Will you be in a relationship with me long term? All these things are risky to some people because they don't want to hear the word no. Here's one of the components and the other side of the coin, if you will, on this whole equation, hearing the word no. When you analyze highest paying jobs in the land, the thing that gets paid the most money, the equation usually will sit. Those people that are willing to hear more no's in their life will get paid more money. Any career that is just littered with hearing the word no in your life every single day, those are the people that get paid the most. Salespeople. Sales is some of the highest paid production in the land. Anyone who's in sales has the opportunity, not all of them are paid the highest, they have the opportunity to be some of the highest paid people in the world just through sales. It's because a salesperson, by definition, has to ask people for the order, and will everyone say yes? No. When everyone you ask for the order actually says yes, you're probably asking not enough people. So you must ask for more. Your opportunity is much greater than you ever imagined. So the people that get no the most will get paid the most. There's another equation. It's getting the word no and handling conflicts is where the highest paid professions are and the highest paid positions. So risking will absolutely equate to a higher income no matter what. You also will risk offending people. Offending people. It really is amazing to me that with my coaching and with my training, there are other coaches and trainers out there. Absolutely, you have your pick. There are millions of them, and every day there are millions more. I do life coaching, business consulting. I help you take whatever strategy or system or whatever passion you have, help you monetize it and help you develop a life around it so that you can be doing it forevermore and really bring in the abundance that you deserve. Most coaches, however, out there don't have the chutzpah, don't have the guts to actually get in your face. And what I mean by that is that if everything that you want is in a place you've never been, is most of your abundance is going to come from stepping outside of that comfort zone. I've got to be really good at moving you to experience just beyond where you're comfortable. For me to do that effectively, I've got to risk offending you. I've got to risk moving you so profoundly past that line, which is by definition where you're uncomfortable, that you may resist, and you may resist so strongly that you fight me on it, that you hate me for it, that you get offended by some of the things that I may do. Most of my best clients, not only best by definition of how much they invest with me, not best by how long they invest with me as me being their coach. However, also the level of success that they get, the best people, the people that create the most abundance going through my program are the ones that hated me at the beginning. Absolute hated me. Hated what I was doing because I was showing them where their comfort zone line was. I was bringing them right to the edge and then asking them to step over and really just giving them little pushes so it's easier for them to step through the pain of change. Isn't that amazing? So my abundance and in turn theirs, my effectiveness as a coach is dependent on me risking offending the people I'm talking to for their best interest. I will tell you, in most of your positions, your abundance, your happiness, your joy, your creation of more, your stepping into your ultimate potential will have to do with how much you're willing to risk offending people that are around you, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, associates, other people that are standing still while you're looking to drive through and really create something amazing, which usually means changing their universe in some way. They'll resist you. And so you need to work through that, which is the risky part for some people. You also are going to end up risking complete and utter failure. Now, I teach in my programs, there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. However, for the general populace, there are components of failure that people perceive as such. For instance, you get up to bat, and literally, we're talking baseball. You get up to bat, you grab the bat, get up to the plate, and you swing once, twice, 3 times, you are struck out. Now, some people call that a failure. So you struck out. Matter of fact, every baseball player in the world strikes out on a regular basis. But wait a second. You're saying not everybody. There are some players that are really good. Yes. The best players, however, in the world strike out more than they don't. I want you to get that. We talk about batting averages. You know baseball, you know batting averages. When someone bats over 300, what does that mean? When they bat over 300, it means that they actually end up batting 3 times, or more precisely, they don't strike out. They don't strike out 30% of the time, or more precisely, they strike out 70% of the time. That's how they got a 300 batting average, which is considered really good. Those are the top echelon of the baseball players in our world. Imagine you create your business to be really comfortable, not only comfortable, ecstatic with striking out or failing 70% of the time. I will tell you, your success will skyrocket when you do. That's right. You'll create more success in your life when you're comfortable failing 70% of the time, which means every time you get up, every time you go for something, you know there's a huge chance of failure, and you pat yourself on the back and get back in there again and again and again, knowing you're going to fail 70% of the time to create ultimate, outrageous success. What does that look like? Risking complete failure to achieve great success, so that every opportunity, every real estate deal, every business opportunity that you approach, every sale that you go on, sales call that you go on, every single one of these has the potential for failure, and you're okay with it, and you're willing to get in there and play full out, risking the failure, because you're then going to get so much rewards from it. Does that make sense? Risk failure to achieve ultimate success. Kind of along the same line is you must be able to risk doing something wrong to find out what the right thing is. Like I said, I risked in that sales call doing it wrong to see whether this worked better than what I had been doing before. I risked saying nothing and being quiet and following a certain procedure and process to see whether that process was going to work. It was a big risk. I took the risk of doing it wrong to make sure I knew what was right. So you want to be able to do that. That's taking a risk. Taking a risk is making a choice. We have choices every single day, and actually making a decision, making a quick decision, Fast decisions. It's one of the processes I bring you through when you're at my 3-day boot camp. You make a fast decision. It's better than no decision at all. Absolutely. Get in the process of making quick decisions. Some people consider that so risky to do. I consider it's hugely risky not to. Dare to take that risk of making quick decisions every single day. Risk friends. That's right. Risk new connections. Risk making new connections and risk losing your old. There's an expression, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. When you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most and you don't like the averages you're hanging out with, you must find a new group of people to hang out with, which means risking developing new relationships, putting yourself out there in that capacity, and letting go of those old ones that were not being effective. We're not moving you forward. And matter of fact, we're usually holding you stop and stuck in your life. Let go of them to be able to move forward with amazing results, to create your fullest potential, both internally, externally, spiritually, financially, all of the above. It happens when you dare to risk developing new friends and dare to risk letting go of old ones. Risk being judged, risk making a fool out of yourself, risk being ridiculed. I've done a major transformation over the last 15 years, major transformation in where I was to where I am now, putting myself out there every single day and learning to risk. In that process, I've been ridiculed. I've been poked fun at. I've been condemned. I've had people who just cursed me and said, absolutely, you're doing the wrong thing. How dare you? They would tell me as I was developing all these new businesses and developing all the stretches in my life that I was taking all this risk, and I have 6 kids, 3 sets of twins that were some of my focal point in why I was doing all this. Only some of my people that were criticizing me all the time, they were really critical about the fact that I was risking my children's future. And how dare I do that? How dare I take the risk of not having, because I was investing time, money, and energy into ventures that could have gone south. Matter of fact, many of them did. However, in the process, I was able to create huge abundance with the ones that did work. So 70% failed, and I had a 300 batting average. I created massive success. That massive success was only because I took the risk that other people wagged their finger in my face and said, how dare you do all this? You're risking your children's future. I said, how dare I not? I'm risking their future when I don't act. Understand, these definitions of risk are so important to you, and they show up all the time. Dare to be vulnerable, dare to step beyond, dare to make this a whole new world for you in your life. We've been talking about doing it different. We've been talking about why would you ever take a risk in the first place? Well, frankly, to get to the other side. Why would you want to get to the other side is because where you are is not reaching your fullest potential. Where you are is not making you happy. Where you are is not your dream life. Then dare to risk, because everything that you want is on the other side of that line. Take the chance. Take the leap of faith. It is your future, and it's where your opportunity, happiness, joy, abundance, amazingness is waiting for you, just on the other side. I want you all, when you really, really love this, you absolutely want to come and hang out with me more. Come hang out here on the radio show. Come hang out. Check out my podcast. Absolutely check out YouTube channel as well. Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire. Google me. You'll find me everywhere. Check out social media. Also check out the maverickdifference.com. You want to go to the maverickdifference.com and check out. You'll get some free downloads there and participate in me fully. This is Paul Finck. This is the Maverick Millionaire. This is the Maverick Difference Radio Show. Till next time, everyone, continue to take the risk. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to Paul Finck and the Maverick Difference Radio Show. You can listen to Paul live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern and anytime 24/7 on RadiostarWorldwide.com.